Hello and welcome to the Warrior's Journey podcast. And today I have Charissa Lynn. She's just an incredible alchemist leader. She started as a teacher, then she grew a big product company, and now she's coaching, helping women in the business industry to move more with their soul, the alchemy, the law of the universe. We're going to know more about her story and also the depth of being an entrepreneur and the choices you have to make. And it was such a good podcast with a lot of depth, and I'm sure you're going to really love it. If you love the episode, if you love the podcast, please help us and just click 5 stars and follow us to know all about our next episode. We fight the Hello, Charissa. I'm so excited to have you today. For the people that are listening to us, me and Charissa met online, and I was just like so interested by what she was doing, because I was like, it's exactly what I'm doing, but not exactly what I'm doing. Yeah. So I'm gonna tell you about her today. We're gonna learn more about her. And for people that don't know exactly what you do, can you tell us today?
Okay, well, thank you, Claudia, for having me, first of all. So it's an honor to be here and to share my journey and my story and all the things. So I'm excited to be here. So thank you for that. Where do we even begin? I'm very multifaceted. I own a product company. So I'm the founder of, it's called Crushed Aftercare. So we make natural vegan aftercare for permanent makeup artists, tattoo artists, and cosmetic nurses. So that's my company, and we brand that aftercare for the company. So they get their logo on it. And this company I founded 9 years ago. And I mean, we'll probably go into that story of the Warriors, journey, because it definitely was a journey. Along that path of growing that product business, I started to mentor, started to lead, also got into spirituality as well, which we'll probably dive into. And so I'm also a business mentor. Alchemy leader is my new title, but I do lead women in business, but I'm now more focused on the alchemy, self-identity, transformational work for the women in business that I lead.
I love it so much. And I see that of like some women that have created so much of a big influence, so much of a big company, of like we end up just managing and being with people and seeing them evolve, and with us evolving. I'm sure we're going to learn about that today, about your story. But I love like when those leaders become leader for like not just their own company, but for others. So let's dive into what bring you into the product company. Like what made like the first insight of like, I'm going to create this business?
Yeah. I feel like this podcast is so funny because this podcast is divinely timed. Before we even jumped onto this podcast, you were saying about how, you like to show the parts where it's not always rainbows and butterflies. Yeah. And I thought, I literally just did a reel minutes before we jumped onto this podcast, showcasing how in 2020, how I had to close down my business. And, looking back, I would tell her that it's all going to work out. It's going to be bigger and better than you'd ever imagined. But I think that's so funny that we come on to talk about this. And I just did that reel. And I was about to do a post. I'm going to do another one today that's around how I started the product company. And here you are asking me that. So I'm like, this is so divinely timed. So funny. Yeah. So there will be a post out, but I was lying in my bed 9 years ago. I had my second baby and I was on my maternity leave. I was a school teacher at the time. So I went to school to be a teacher, got my master's in education, was teaching for, at that point, I think over probably 10 years at that point. And I was on my leave for a year with my second baby. I have 3 kids. And I was lying in bed and I was thinking about the kids in my classroom who didn't have very healthy lunches. And as teachers, we always like to say, pick your healthy choice first in the morning. We don't want them to have their candy or whatever right away in the morning. Well, there'd be some kids who just wouldn't have, an apple or a banana. They wouldn't have any healthy options. So I was thinking about those kids and how I would give them my apple. I would give them my banana, go grab one on my desk. And I thought there's got to be a better way where I can provide fruit for these kids, just have a basket in my room. Sure, I could buy it, but as a teacher, you're always buying different supplies. So I thought, what if I just made something and sold it, and then I could have this fruit. This is literally just coming into my mind, as I'm lying in bed. And I heard this voice say, make lip balms. Just came out of nowhere. So this is where it's like, how did it happen? Yes, it was an intuitive hit, an intuitive voice, higher wisdom, whatever it may be, but it was literally like I heard it. I heard this voice say, which was like my own voice, but I heard it say lip balms. And then I started going, what am I talking about? This is crazy. I don't even know how to make lip balms. I've never made them before. What is this? This is weird. This is crazy, whatever. But I was so excited I could barely fall asleep because then I'm thinking, well, how do I make it? Let's find out. And what kind of containers? And I'll have to get labels. And I couldn't fall asleep. So right, that something big is about to be conjured up when you can't fall asleep. But here I have this newborn. Well, I think it was like 5 months at the time. And I'm like, I gotta go to sleep. But anyway, from there, it's hard to, it was obviously an unraveling of things over the years. But from after that, I started to make lip balms and bath bombs and soaps in my kitchen, have my 2 little kids with me. And I started to sell them to family and friends. And then that went into local stores. And then it snowballed into a local lash artist who was doing my lashes at the time. She knew I was making these products. So she asked me, could you make a balm, not a lip balm, but a balm for brows? Because she was doing tattoos for the brows, microblading. And at the moment, I'm like, what is microblading? I had no idea. I wasn't into those kind of things. And so I said to myself, and I remember I had just listened to a podcast that was like, if you don't know what to do, like everything is figure outable. You can figure it out later, move mountains. And I felt like this is a great opportunity. Why say no? So I said, oh yeah, I can do this for you. So I went home. I researched what is microblading and researched, the healing process. And I already knew at this time a lot about essential oils and working with these different, butters and coconut oils. So I knew what the healing properties were. So I knew what the brows needed. And then I was able to, create my potion and created this brow balm. Now the brow balm at this point is, we're known for the brow balm. It's, our biggest seller. And from there it really snowballed into, she ordered that, posted about it. We had the biggest permanent makeup company in Canada reach out to me. I'm up in my room, a baby, and I'm being reached out, or someone's coming and reaching out to me. That's a big company in Canada and wants us, which is me in my kitchen, this brow balm for their company and brand it with their logo, which their Microblading Canada was their name. And now they're Hive Beauty, but it was Microblading Canada at the time. And it just snowballed. And now we're global. Now we're worldwide. Now I left my teaching job. My husband was able to leave his job working at the jail. He used to work 12-hour shifts there. And I moved my business into a product space. So now we have an office front. We have staff, and it's just, we're known as the #1 branded aftercare in the world. So started from an intuitive hit.
I love it so much. I got chills like at multiple moments of like, I just saw all those little moments where you could just be in like, I'm not there yet, or I don't know, or you just like went right in it. And like, that's something we have in common, because like one of my motto for so long was, do it now, figure it out later.
Yes.
Same thing. I think I want to know your input about that. Like now that you've like, I think we need this to go out of the ground. And when like in your situation right now, would you do like more intentional decision, or you still be more like, just do it,
Yeah, you are so right. When I was making the brow balm, I also made underarm paste, and I also made soaps. And so, yes, as I grew, I started to filter out. And we started to niche down and narrow down. People would be like, you should make a dog paw balm. You should make a beard oil. Like, the money coming in all the different ways. And to me, it didn't make sense. I was like, we are blowing up in this industry. And so my name at first was called Crushed with Love, because I was crushing up these little, rose petals and putting them on top of the bath bombs, and it was made with love. But as we started to make for these artists, the aftercare for the tattoos, for the brows, for the lips, we were doing aftercare. So shifting in to crushed aftercare was a massive move for me, and niching down and filtering out. And even now, we're very intentional with the moves we make, who we align with, who we say yes to, who we say no to. And you can get to that point where you know where you're going, and you can filter out and then hold the standards for where you're going and what makes sense, for sure.
I love that so much because I feel like there's a lot of entrepreneur that stays in either one or the other of like in the beginning, they're just like, that's just what I do. And like, you don't even know what you do yet, maybe. And then they go bigger, or like people are like, they say yes to everything. And sometimes the yes you say is just a big no to like what's something that's more aligned, and it's scary to say no sometimes, but the say no is the best thing you can do in business, I think, when you're past the starting point.
Yes, I agree. And there's going to be some moments as well where it just doesn't align with the bigger vision. And I'll give you an example on that. So when I had the company approach me about making the brow balm, this was like a huge opportunity. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a huge Canadian company. And they actually wanted me to contract and only make for them this app. Now, I could have said yes, right? Been like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. This is a huge opportunity.
Yeah.
But I knew my big vision was worldwide. I knew that I could see it. I could see that this is going to be in the hands of like artists all over the planet. This is going to many companies. And as hard as it was to say no, because I'm this little fish in the pond at the time.
Yeah.
These are the big fish. And it's hard to say no to that. But I held my ground and I said, no, I'm not going to do that. This is my vision for my business. Now it's incorporated. Now it's a company. And they respected that. And so they still wanted the product after all, even though I didn't do, what they would have liked me to do, but they still did. So there's an example of, yes, you can be early on and still say no to some things if it doesn't align with what you know to be true for your vision.
Yeah, I love that. Good insight about that. And I wanted to dial down to intuition and spirituality, because that's really big for me. And I feel like, especially as I don't have kids, I have 2 dogs, but I work with a lot of moms. And I feel like, especially like around not birth, but around like having their child when they're younger, of like that passage to like having like being a mom, I feel like they're more intuitive. Is it something that was new? Is it something you had like since forever? Or I mean, we all have that forever, but like, when did you start listening to it,
Yeah. I mean, when I look back, I remember people saying to me, friends, close friends, saying, you're very intuitive, like it was just a statement that people would make. So it was something that I already innately was good at. But the intuition part, it definitely came, it's hard to know because my business and my kids came at the same time. So I'm like, did it come with the birth of the business or being a mother? Maybe. Yeah, I don't really know. But I definitely was, as I was growing the business, I had to listen to the voice that was coming through, because it was a hard time. I had this teaching degree. I'd gone to school all these years, and my identity was I am a school teacher. So then to start to grow this business, and I remember a teacher at my school at the time said, how are you going to do this? How are you going to grow this business? Which again, I was selling to friends and family and just posting online. It was making maybe a few hundred more a month. And she was saying to me, how are you going to do this? And so I'm thinking, well, I don't know. I'm just kind of having fun for now. I had to listen to that intuitive guidance, and I would pull out a pendulum. I was using my oracle cards. I started to go more into that spiritual realm through the journey, because I was so conflicted as that company grew. And so I was like, okay, I'm leaning in. I'm leaning into God. I'm using my pendulum, listening to my intuition, paying attention to my dreams more, because it was such a huge shift for me. And I had to, at some point after a couple years, I had to make a decision. Do I stay teaching the secure, stable job that was bringing in this consistent income that I went to school for years, or do I make that leap? And I couldn't have done that without my connection to spirituality, to the spiritual realm, to faith, to having faith and listening to my intuition.
Yeah, having that bigger vision is surely something that's very, very important, even in the beginning. And I feel like sometimes it's just so scary to jump in the void of like, this is, like you said, a new identity. This is a new way of doing things. What if it doesn't work out? It's not just someone being there. Like, I have to be there and I have to figure it out. So like when you said you lean into spirituality, what was the practices? Like you said, your pendulum, like did you have like some kind of ritual? What it was just like intuitive? Was it like, what was the thing that helped you the most to be more connected to that and not connected to the voice that's like fear and scarcity?
Yeah, well, and that unfolded when I actually went through a dark night of the soul. I went through a really dark time where, and now looking back, I know it was, I like the term where the universe has shaken you to awaken you. And so I was going through that kind of time where I'm like, do I stay being a teacher? Do I take the leap and continue to grow my business? And at this time, I started to mentor as well. I started to coach. So I had two businesses. I'm doing business coaching, I'm teaching, doing my product company, and I got
So
the
you
three kids.
started business coaching before leaving the teaching, even in having the product company.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It was like there was a lot happening for sure. And so the coaching actually happened naturally as I was growing my product company. People started to message me and say, how are you doing this? Can you teach me how? And so that kind of came naturally. I didn't know I was going to be mentoring other women in business. It just people came to me.
Was it people you know? It was people from like online?
It was locally in London, but they would reach out online. They would see my posts on Instagram. And I had started a Facebook group as well. That was a women's entrepreneur Facebook group. I don't have that one anymore, but I had started it. So I started to do a little bit of leadership as I was growing my business, and then that brought people in. But I was going through this dark time where I was teaching, and it was the hardest year of my life. We had really high behavior, a really big class. They were, the support wasn't there. I was very stressed out because my husband's working these long hours. I'm getting the kids up out the door before I have to get off to teaching, basically get out of it, let's go. And then taking them off to daycare, dropping them off, and then teaching all day in high behavior and chaos. And there's some conflict
full time, right?
Oh yeah, it was crazy. And so I was like, oh my gosh. And so by Christmas, I'm like, I just need a break. And so I took a break.
I bet.
You know what? There's no, like, I'm going to do this. Even though I'd always been this strong person my whole life, like I was known as, top of my class, athlete. This felt like a bit of it did feel like a failure. I felt very ashamed actually during this time to take this break, but it was like mentally, I just needed it. And I had to, and looking back again, I'm like, it was working for me. But at the time, it was like, I still get emotional when I think about that time because of like just that feeling of shame of I'm taking this time off of work, trying to figure things out, working on my mental health right now and just taking care of me.
And having that connection to those kids also. I know as teachers, and I have one of my best friends that is a teacher, of like, if they take time off, it's like they abandon them, and it's like, I just got chills saying that, of like, you're almost more there than their parents. Like you're always there for them. So
there was definitely guilt for sure as a teacher to leave my class for, I think it was 2 months that I ended up taking off. But that was the time where I started to go more into spirituality. So I got books out on mindset and trying to remember what books it was, but I went and did some Reiki. I went to a local crystal store that sold crystals. So I was connecting more with that. I was just kind of like trying to find myself, I think, at that time. And I got my first pendulum. So it was during that darker period where I started to connect more with spirituality. So even though my intuition had led me into starting the company, I didn't really get more into those practices and rituals until I was going through this dark period where I was like, hey, there's got to be more. Like I was just feeling really lost in my life at that time. And I'm like, I can't live like this feeling. And so that really helped me transition through that, while I ended up, surprisingly, this is a blessing as well, and divinely guided, I ended up getting pregnant. And we were like, we're done at 2 kids. We're like, we're done, we're good. We sold all our crib, all of our baby stuff we had just sold.
Oh my God.
And during that 2 months, takes one time, guys. It just takes one time.
Be careful.
And we were having a 3rd baby. So I went back to work for the rest of that year, but I went back and I was already pregnant. And so that meant taking off the next year, which was like, it was like universe was, bringing in my little angel, he's now 7 now, but it was obviously meant to be, beautiful child and all the things, but everything was so divinely orchestrated on this pathway. So anyways, back to the rituals though, that is how it began.
I love it.
Yeah, it was, for me, it was pulling out, I usually do like a 3-card pull to, where was I? Where am I now? Where am I going? I would ask the pendulum like direct questions. I remember asking, should I leave teaching? Should I
Yes.
go? Like that would be like the big things. It would be like, will I be a millionaire with my business? Yes. Oh yeah, the pendulum swinging. Yes. But it's funny to look back because actually, yes, I left teaching. And yes, we're moving into $1 million. We just had $500,000 year and we're moving into $1 million year this year. So it's like,
Wow.
pendulum was right.
It is. It's always right. And I love saying like that, those oracle, those cards. I do tarot a lot too. I do runes, and like they just like is a mirror. They're a mirror
Yeah.
that have your intuition. And it's just like you can have that intuition already, but having those tools sometimes is just a little bit of a fake.
It's a confirmation. It's a
Yeah.
confirmation.
And I love that you use that to help you growing. I want to not dive in the deep part, but there's something that I feel is very, very, you said you were a student, you say you were always like the strong one. Like, if you're ready to talk about it, like we can skip the subject, but like, how was your childhood? Like, was it something that you had to be strong when you were really young already to have like, that like shield of like, I'm doing it? Because I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs have gone through those phases and now they're like stuck sometimes of like, I can hold it all on my own, on myself, and then having those moments of having to like take a knee to be able to be like, okay, I have to shed some things.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. So for me, I think about my motivation and my drive and my work ethic is definitely a trauma response. Like I full on know that. And I've done some posts around it before where or reels around that. It's a response because for me, my mom left my real dad when she was pregnant with me. And so she had my brother and then she had me. So my mom was a single mom. And then she met my stepdad. They were together until I was 18. And then they separated. But my mom, she didn't really have much money and it was really hard for her to have her own place and all the
Yeah.
things. So my learning and my mindset from that was I never want to depend on a man. I had this mindset of I never want to be in that position as my mom was when she left my dad and again had no money and was struggling and trying to make ends meet. And then she met my stepdad and and then they broke up and same kind of story was cycling.
Mm-hmm.
And so I witnessed this and I remember saying to myself when I was around 18, 19, that I will never let this happen. And I never wanted my kids to experience it. So from there, it was like, I'm going to go to school. And I went to university and I went and got my master's and, got this full-time job. And I was always working. I was a waitress all through university. I paid for everything on my own. I never had parental support at all not when I moved out at 19, not with my university, never had money come my way. It's just, we didn't have that money. And so that was my mentality. So it goes into who I am today, right? And it's made me who I am today. But the conscious awareness of that's a trauma response. And now I do a lot of alchemy work and I'm very aware of the laws of the universe. And I work, with the laws of polarity and the laws of gender. And I know about divine feminine and masculine. So I do bring in the feminine, even though that's my upbringing. That's what created who I am today. I'm very aware that I can shift that. And so I do bring in the feminine embodiment in my life and business. And I work between both energies and then the receiving. So even it goes into my relationship with my husband, because I am such a strong, independent, I can do this. And we've had conversations where he thinks I'm just this strong woman and I can do things on my own. And over the past few years, we've had these deeper conversations where I've said, because that's who I thought I had to become or who I did have to become, to survive
for that phase of your life that helped you, but now where you are, being able to surrender, being able to not having to be, and for him, because we're so the same, and for like my husband, and I'm curious to know what you're gonna say of like, it's hard for him to be in his masculine, like healthy masculine, if I'm just like, no, I'm gonna do it on my own,
Yes, absolutely. So I remember this one specific conversation we had where we're sitting on the bed and he said, you're the first woman I've been with that takes care of herself, that and I always have made more money than him. So it's just, he was used to being with women who really needed him so anyways, I had to say to him, I do need you. And
Yeah.
specifically it was if I'm not feeling good, if I'm under the weather. Well, he's used to, I'm good, I'm fine, I take care of myself, and an independent woman. And now I just have to express, I need you. Or I'll just go up to him now and I'll be like, I just need a hug. Just hold me. Like, I just need someone to take care of me. Like, I'll just express it and say it out loud. But we had the conversation where I said to him that, yes, because of my upbringing and what I've gone through, but I do want to be held, and I do want you to be, the man. So we'll use language like, I'll call him my king, come take care of your queen, so that he can have that masculine role and I can be held, surrender, receive, and be in my feminine.
I love that, because as business owner, we're like, it's hard to shift to that feminine, and it's so rewarding because, well, you were in your feminine with your intuition in your business a lot, but it's just like having to be there and to like do all the things. And it's just like, when you understand that when you come more into the flow and the ease, and it's not having to be as hard all the time for you, were like, was it a shift around like having those 3 jobs and like moving into like more coaching? Have you done more like, I don't know, like delegation? Was it more like ease and flow, or you're still like doing a lot now?
I would say there was a time period for sure with, I would say, more my coaching business, where there's a lot more content going out and doing these live videos and putting out many different offers. And that was a lot as I was growing the product business. But I brought on team members with the product business. Now it's more of I call it like a well-oiled machine, where the product business can run without me. I don't need to be there. Today I'm at home. I'm doing this podcast. I'm doing some content. I'm going to get my workout in. I could go in the hot tub if I want. And I have people over there. My husband's over there full time, and we have 2 employees over there. So I don't have to do that physical hands-on. I can go over and help out if we have this influx of sales. I'll go jump in if I need to, but mainly I don't. And then this is kind of the alchemy work, where as for with mentorship, it's more about who you're being. And so I'm now shifting more into this quality over quantity, where it's who you're being versus, sure, you're going to have times where you have to hustle, right? But this is the part where it's like the coherence, the congruency, and this is the conscious awareness of how our universe works, and this is where I talk about the laws. I'm really into hermetics, and I'm into alchemy and how, the laws of the universe work. So I just consciously know, and I live my life around that. And you have to be really in tune with your body too, right? And your body tells you, are you in overdrive? Are you pushing too much? And you can feel it because you're exhausted, or you start to have anxious thoughts, or you just feel it in your stomach. Everyone feels it differently. But you have to be really aware of that, and then kind of move back into that masculine, move back into the feminine, and it's like a dance.
Yes. And how do you use those law to like help you in your coaching business and helping your client as well? Because I feel like sometimes it's hard, because when you're an entrepreneur, you cannot just decide to take a break, to stop, to like, it's too much. So you have to be really conscious of that energy. And I feel like so much, and that's a big part of what I do, right? Of like, so much entrepreneur would like not eat because they're too busy. And then they were like, you said you're going to work out. Sometimes like, I don't have time to work out. I'll pull that aside. And then like all those things of like, I love that you said listen to your body, because I feel like, how can you listen to your intuition and be there if your body is in survival mode? And most entrepreneurs don't know they're in survival mode. I don't know if it's something you see in your clients sometimes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I feel like there's so much here. But, one thing that's coming through is, this is the part of the quality over the quantity, where it's like, you can't be at your optimal state unless you're at your optimal state.
Very logic. I love how it's like, let's just hear that again.
I feel like I need to do a post now. This could be like a quote. You can't be at your optimal state unless you're at your optimal state. So you can't create content that moves the masses or moves your audience if you're in survival and you're exhausted because you've only slept for 4 hours and you're just go, and you haven't ate for like whatever, 8 hours, whatever it may be. So there's that aspect of, you're only going to be as good as as you are. So I have priorities and I have standards. So we got to know, what are your priorities? And so for me, it's not just success in business. For me, it's my health. For me, it's my relationships. And so I even say to my clients, what are your top 3 priorities? And it's usually the same, right? We usually have similar ones where it's like, I want to make the money, successful business, but I also want to have a life and have beautiful relationships, but I also want to like my body. Like this is very important. And I always say body, mind, soul. I say that a lot of my stories, body, mind, soul. And so, yeah. And so if you know your priorities, then, and these are your standards, then this is what you have to create in your daily schedule. And so people will say, oh, but I'm so busy and I need my business to be successful, but then I want the health. And it's like, okay, but then now it's not a standard then. If you're not actually doing it, it's actually not a standard, because the standards are what you set for yourself and then you meet yourself there. And so what I say to my clients, because this will happen where they do want to be in great shape and healthy and
they're wanting.
Yes. And I say, well, then that comes first. So do not do your business first. Your workout comes first. And of course, everyone's different. Maybe your schedule has to happen at 2:00. It doesn't work at 9:00, whatever. Then put it in, but it is in your calendar then. And this is where we hold the standards no matter what. And then we trust that that one piece of content that went out that day is enough, right? The micro moves is enough to move the needles. You don't need to be spending hours and hours on your business. You can do a half hour, 1 hour for that. Sleep, you turn your phone off and you go to bed at 10 and you get up at 6 or 7 or whatever you need. I know I need 7 hours of sleep. That's a non-negotiable. Right? Like it has to be your standard. It has to be your non-negotiable. And so I'm a big believer in that way of living life, especially when you're a mother too, versus the one where it's like hustle, grind, lose sleep. You'll do it no matter what. You'll have no relationships in the name of your dreams, where I'm like, you get to have it all.
Yeah. I love that, because I feel like, especially as mother, and you're like a great example for that, of like, you can have it all, even though if you're a mother and you're not a bad mom because you have a business, and you're not a bad mom because you take care of you. Like that's so important. And I guess like what you're doing right now, like the laws of the universe, the alchemy, all those things, for me, what's true is like everything I have, like my method is, I've used it on myself before and it worked for me. So then that's what I do with others now. Was it something similar with you?
Do you mean with like the alchemy and laws of the
like universe? Is it what you teach about like the alchemy of the identity, the laws of the universe? Like, is it something like that really helped you and now you have that method to help like others?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's also just what I'm obsessed with. I can be a business coach and I can teach you how to sell and I can teach you how to write content and I can teach, you know what I mean? Like I've done it. I've been doing it for 9 years and I bring that in with my clients hands down. Like it just comes in with the coaching, the mentoring. But the thing that I'm obsessed with, the thing that if you come look at my library in my office, what I listen to every single day, what I watch every night. I mean, I watch Gaia every single night.
I love that. I was just talking about that yesterday. It's so funny.
I know we keep having these synchronicities, and I'm an ambassador now for Gaia. So I just
love it.
Did last week, but this is my obsession, right? This is the thing that I'm obsessed with, that I could talk about for hours, that I get lit up about, that I could watch shows and read about all day if I had to. Like we have a pool, and in the summer it's like I just got my book and I'm just reading all the things like the esoteric, mystical things. So yeah, so it's just like it's the thing that I'm obsessed with, but it's how I've led myself through my business from day one, from that intuitive hit that I had, and oracle cards and the pendulum and the alchemy work I've noticed is because I've reflected on this. I'm like, oh my, like this alchemy transformation and the process of alchemy, which is a 7-step process, I've done many times in my life, and we all have. And in my business. And you can also bring it to a micro level. You can bring it to a macro, from going from teacher into the product company, or I'm going through an alchemy transition right now, going from business coach to more spiritual alchemy leader. So I'm going through this process right now of like the metamorphosis, turning from the cocoon caterpillar into the butterfly is happening currently for me.
I love that, because I feel as coaches, like when we align, and I don't know if that's something that's aligned with you with what you just said, but what I feel is like when we decide to go even more with what excites us, what like lit us, like sometimes there's this little death of herself. I feel like, oh, but I was so good at doing this. It was so
Mhm.
easy to do this, but I know that I'm here for more. And you have to like be okay with like having to be in that little void of in between of like, I'm not here 100%. And I'm not there a 0% anymore. I'm like somewhere in the middle. And sometimes that's hard because you have your both identities pulling you and you're like, no, I'm choosing this one. I'm choosing to be here. I'm choosing like to expand. You had that, I think, multiple times with your story. How did you felt in those lower moments, and what helped you to continue having faith?
Yeah. Yeah, there was definitely confusion. And I remember one day waking up in my bed and thinking, I've always been known as Charissa, the school teacher, and just having this really, I guess it would be like a confusing energy. It's really hard to describe, but you kind of feel misplaced and you kind of
Yeah.
feel like,
Who am I?
where am I going? Yeah, like
Yeah.
what is going on here? But this is where it's like being very conscious of the laws of the universe. And actually, I'm feeling so passionate. I'm so glad we are having this conversation because everything's solidifying where I'm going. Like this is crazy. But I feel like we know the laws, like not everyone does, but like
Remember them. It's
yes,
inside
remember
of us.
totally. It is, right? Everything's connected. People know the basics of the law of attraction, but I think that is overlooked the laws of the universe, right? And I'm talking like hermetics principles here, but because there's the law of seasons, right? Where it's like where you're gonna be in the winter before the spring.
Yeah.
There's gonna be the darkness before the light. And so if you can be conscious of this, like you're going to be more grounded, you're going to be more certain, your frequency is going to be elevated, and you know that it's just a season. It's just a part of the alchemy journey of evolution of growth, right? Into your next level, into your, transformative, most beautiful self. Like we keep going. And this doesn't end, by the way. This is like a cycle.
Yeah.
It keeps going and going. But that really helps when you are knowledgeable of that. So when you're in those moments, like now I'm aware. And
Yeah.
so I can have this energy of it's all going to work out. And you look at your past and you go, yeah, I evolved, I changed, I shifted. And yes, it's hard right now, but I know that this is only working for me. And I like the saying of like, instead of it working, like, how people say, oh, it's
Happening to me.
happening to me. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
It's happening for you, but even better is happening through you. And so this is the whole alchemy part where you're literally shifting your frequency, your DNA, your energetic blueprint, your coding, all of that is working through you. Right. So when you're in those moments of like, oh my gosh, because I'm going through it right now, where I'm shifting from known as a business coach in the coaching industry, where I just have this feeling, you just have this feeling of, for me, it's, I need deeper. Like this is how you get how many sales and write this content. It's just too surface and shallow for me. Yes,
I
of
love
course,
that.
I will be helping my clients with that, women in business, but I don't want to be known for that. And so I just have this feeling of more depth. And so it is a feeling, but there is those moments of feeling, and this is a part of the alchemy journey where you're a human being. Like you're going to have these emotions of what is happening. Oh my gosh, like you're gonna be happy, you're gonna be excited, you're gonna be annoyed, you're gonna be frustrated. Like you're gonna get all these emotions on the journey. So it comes with the territory. But when you are aware that this is just the part of evolution, and you are a human who desires to evolve, and have that self-mastery and transformation, you accept the journey. You go on the hero's journey.
That's what I love so much. And I was like, not waiting, but I was like, I'm sure this is gonna come up of like the fucking accepting part of like, if you're in this season, like you said, of like, you're there. So just like see what's better for you in that moment of slowing down, of like, where can you take care of you, where you can like shift what's not aligning with you anymore, of like that rebirth state afterwards. And I feel like when we're fighting that and like, no, it's not supposed to slow down, it's supposed to always like go up, like it's supposed to be like that, like it's never like that. So when you fight it, it's longer and longer, and you keep like feeling like it's never gonna go away. But when you just ride the wave and you're just like, this is the wave that's going to go down, but I know it's going to go up, and you're just preparing to be more solid, to prepare to have that influx of up, and trusting that like, this is what I love, this is where I'm going. I know it's scary, but this is what excites me. Like love, excitement is like God telling you to go there, literally. Like, and sometimes some things excite you in the past and it doesn't excite you now. Like you said, you were more like a business coach of like the strategy, the things like that. And I think as you evolve, you understand that there's a bigger picture. And for me, it was like the same, but not in the same realm of like, I was more like fitness, nutrition. And I was like, there's so much more of that, of like, you can have the best diet in the world, you can have the best like workout in the world, but if your nervous system is wrecked because you're in trauma response all the time, you're gonna like sabotage yourself all the time. So for me, it was too service level to stay there. So it's like so the same, but not the same of like,
I love it.
Yeah, like being able to accept like, yeah, okay, it's bigger than me, but I can be that leader. And I feel like people that follow you, I know you talk about that today, you said in the beginning of like, I think as being leaders like that, we have to say when we're having those wave of down to show people that it's normal to showcase. Because I feel like on social media, on everywhere, it's just like everything's good. Like I think when you're aware and when you're a leader, you're not scared of saying you have those rough past because it doesn't bring anything like down about your self-worth or whatever. You're still you, and you're just letting the chance to others to see that like they can have those moments too.
Yeah, you are such a mirror. It's crazy because I was this morning or last night somewhere, I was thinking the exact same thing, that I'm like, this conversation has to be brought to the table more, because I think there's a lot of shame in the online world around those seasons of pulling back. And you asked the question before, you know, you're an entrepreneur, right? We're making money. We need to have sales coming in, especially if that's your only source of income. So what do you do here? And I think some people, you know, they might be like, okay, I'm just totally taking like stepping back, and everyone's journey is right. Everyone's journey is maybe that will work for some people. I think that you can still have, you know, micro moves. I think sure, there may be where you do a few days, maybe you're unplugged. I have a client who took 2 weeks. She unplugged. She was still doing things behind the scenes with her team and stuff like that.
Having more delegation, having more people doing things for you at that moment, you know?
Yeah. So she was still doing stuff in her business. She just wasn't up. And I've personally never done that. I've shown up every single day, you know, whether it's just this one post, but again, I'm not here to judge. Everyone has their different journey and it works differently for everyone else. But I think that we have to normalize these seasons, the law of rhythm, right? Where again, it's like a wave, and there will be times where you maybe don't have all this content ideas coming out and you want to show up and do these live videos and do these posts. I have that. I still do my posts, but I'm still like, wait a minute, especially if I'm in a transition, like right now, I'm like, okay, wait, I'm shifting into this. So then there's a little bit of confusion. So then that's a great time to do the introspection, you know, where you're maybe not showing up online as much as you normally would. Maybe it's like 1 story or 2 stories in the day. Maybe this weekend I didn't do any, which is like unheard of from me. I needed it. I needed that time to unplug. So normalizing and not shaming, and it's actually a part of the growth. And this is the part I want to talk about more, right? Is that's a part of the alchemy journey. And these are the laws of the universe, where there is the law of seasons. And so this is normal and there's no shame. So I love this topic.
I love it so much. Thank you for being as authentic and raw about your story, because like, I feel that is very important, like you said, to normalize that. And I'm very, very like grateful to have your the word in English don't come, but to have your insight
say it in French.
All this for sure. I love that. One thing I ask all the time at the end of my podcast, if you were to leave this earth and you could just have like one insight that you could give, what would it be?
I feel like for me, it would, and it's like so cliche, but it's like, go for your dreams, you know, like take the risks, do the wild things. I feel like that's like the motto from what my life has been, and leaving teaching to where I am now. I saw that vision, and it wasn't an easy thing just to do it and leave my teaching job, you know, but it would definitely be, what do you want to do? Go do it.
So much, because sometimes I think we fall down too much in like the have tos and the what if and the maybe and the just fucking do it, man.
Do it. Yeah.
I love it. If people were like, wow, I'm in love with Charissa, where can I go follow her?
So you can follow me over on Instagram. the Charissa Lynn. That is where I hang out the most. And then I have my website, www.intuitionrevolution.
I love it. I'll put everything in the show notes for you guys. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you and I wish you the best. It was a great podcast.
Thank you, Claudia.
Buy yourself a drink. How's it looking?